Good morning. It's the Big JB Morning Thunder Tuesday. Wanted to welcome. I think the name of the user is Premium Films 1337. I'm assuming that is Leet, since that's been around for a while. He found my channel through the Doom Hammer unboxing that I did a little while ago, and so he subscribed this morning, which was great. So welcome, sir or madam. I appreciate your subscription this morning, or seeing it this morning anyway. And it's a rainy, kind of overcast day today, and I don't mind. I'm glad for the rain. Kind of cleared up the cleared up the fog and removed the burn ban that we had here because of the stale air. I've got a lot of yawning happening this morning, so forgive me for that. So yesterday, I was not running late. I just was late. We have 3 of our kids down with colds. It was a day off yesterday for them as well, and so I hung around the house, kind of make sure that things got squared away, help my wife get them, all the kids kind of taken care of before I left to come into the office. I did some work from home, and so I'm sitting there finishing up before I left the house, and I'm listening to. Just kind of in the background, I could tell my youngest has a cough, and they were out watching cartoons, and my oldest was on the couch and she was playing her DS. And excuse me again, on the DS, if you've never played one, there's a microphone on it, and you can blow into the mic, and it responds. And so, like in Nintendogs, for example, you have a bubble blower, and you blow into the microphone, and it blows bubbles in the game. And there are a couple other things where you can, you blow into the mic and it responds. So my daughter's daughter is on the couch. My oldest is, so she's blowing into the microphone. And then my youngest would cough, and we had this kind of funny rhythm going. It was and I did that for my wife, kind of comparing it, and she noticed it a couple more times, and then it was achoo was one of the other kids did it. So we had our own little cold rhythm section happening in the living room yesterday. I'm going to take a sip of tea here because my throat's feeling a little scratchy. Hang on a second. Morning tea. So I was thinking this morning as I was kind of getting ready. You do some of your best thinking in the shower. So as I was getting ready this morning, I was thinking about this guy that I passed yesterday in the cafeteria. Where I work, there's a large Indian population, and I mean in Indian, not Native American. And so it's hard to tell exactly where they come from. Their skin tone is similar. I mean, it definitely has a range, just like every region's skin tone has kind of has a range between fair skin to dark skin. But so it's obviously, I'm not trying to be a jerk by saying that he's Indian. I'm deliberately painting with a broad stroke because I don't really know. But so I walked by, and he had BO. It stunk. Unfortunately, there is a stereotype that men from India don't wear BO. Excuse me. They don't wear BO. They do wear BO. They don't wear deodorant. If you've ever seen Russell Peters, who's a funny comedian, but a little dirty sometimes. So if I have any of my church friends who are watching this, just be prepared. But there's some very hilarious things. He says to my brown brothers, please put on some deodorant. And I appreciate that sentiment because I think that it's certainly appreciated. And then I thought, what if I had said something to him while he was standing in line? When I went up to him and I just said, hey, just a tip. You might find it that people enjoy your company more if you put on some deodorant. I would be labeled a jerk. I would be somebody who was culturally insensitive. But what about him? What about his cultural sensitivity for where he is now? In the United States, we really have focused on making sure that people feel welcome and understanding different cultures, and I'm all for that. I think it's absolutely important. And when I meet somebody that comes from a different culture, a different background, it's fascinating to me to sit and talk to them and ask questions about where they came from, what they do. I mean, even in the United States, there's pronunciation, obviously, differences between areas. There are terms or phrases that are used in one place versus another, and I find that really fascinating. And so, if I had a chance to sit down and talk with him, I'd love to ask questions about his culture and how Americans are perceived and that kind of thing. But I think that we put some we overemphasize the cultural sensitivity. If I went to India, I would be expected to adapt to their society. Depending on where I went, of course, but it would not be appropriate for me to go and act like an American. Now, I know that American tourists have a very bad reputation because we go places and we act like American tourists. But if I were to go and live there, in order to successfully integrate into society, I would have to probably do things differently than I do now. I guess I wouldn't have to, but I don't know. I think that, like, if I went to Mexico, and I tried to force other people to speak English to me, I would not very easily find a job or be able to get along very well. I would need to learn some of the language, and that's not to say that they, people from India come over and don't learn the language. They clearly do. A lot of them have schooling that's in English. But it just kind of got me thinking about cultural sensitivity and whether or not America is a little too worried about being culturally sensitive, and there is too little emphasis placed on being culturally sensitive to the place where you're going. So when my wife and I went to the Philippines, the first time I went to the Philippines, I took time to learn the culture and learn some words and phrases and kind of what do you do while you're here, because I wanted to be able to blend in as much as I could. Now, that's very difficult for me to do because I am a 6'4", 200-pound man. I'm very tall. I'm obviously white, and you don't blend in Filipino society as a big guy like that. So what I tried to do otherwise was act and behave and learn as much as I could about that culture so that I could be as well integrated as I possibly could when I talk to people, as least offensive as I could. There's nothing worse than, in my opinion, an American going someplace and being loud and boisterous and annoying and bringing his way of doing things and, well, this is the right way to do things. Just look out here. We don't need to be doing that. And so, I always appreciate it when others are trying to integrate into our society and they make an effort. It doesn't mean that you sacrifice your beliefs or your core, the things that really are core and deep beliefs. I don't see very many Indian women at work with the bindi. That's the red dot. That's the kind of the third eye, the spiritual eye. But it doesn't bother me to see that. I think it's kind of cool to do that because it's a display of faith. I do see guys that wear turbans that are probably Sikhs, and I think that that's awesome. But it makes me want to ask questions, and I don't think you should abandon those things. I guess it's just some of those other. I'm kind of going on and on about it because I want to make sure that I don't sound like I'm being an insensitive jerk. It's very easy to do. My uncle, God bless him, is a great guy, and he has a workshop down in Arizona, and he hires a lot of Mexican guys, but he expects them to speak the language, and he's willing to. He was willing with one guy to pay for his education, to learn English, but he also has kind of this attitude of, you come to my country, you learn to speak my language, you act American, something like that. And I don't know, that kind of bugs me. So anyway, I have rambled on long enough. If you think I'm a jerk, please feel free to say so in the comments, but I think you hear my heart and you know where I'm coming from. So I'm going to call this done since we're now at the 10-minute mark. Everybody have an awesome day. This has been the Big JB for Morning Thunder. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Voice of the Big JB, and I'll see everybody tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Bye-bye.